Ghalibaf yesterday had a 2 hour discussion recorded for it to be broadcasted on state TV in Iran by the Islamic Republic, right? So everybody knows that Ghalibaf seems to be right now the main person in charge, right? And that's many people's understanding. But on state TV, when that video was being played, when it got to a part when he was talking about making justifying the MOU, it got cut. The people within the state TV cut him, and they cut to the supreme leader, the dead one, right, Ali Khamenei, and his points against negotiating with the Americans. So think about this: Ghalibaf is on state TV justifying to the audience in Iran the negotiations and the MOU, and whoever is in charge in the state TV in the middle of it cuts him off, doesn't play the whole 2 hour video, and cuts into a speech by Ali Khamenei saying that you should never negotiate with the Americans because if you give them a little bit, they come ask you for more and more and more until they have everything, right? So that is a big deal. Like, this is a huge demonstration of the the infighting within the Islamic Republic. It's interesting because Ghalibaf also has recently came out and is talking about the division within United States, right? So, Ghalibaf, Iranian Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf said on Tuesday that contrasting views between U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Vice President J.D. Vance highlights internal division within the United States. So he's basically doing an Uno reverse, like, we're not divided, you're divided kind of thing, right? Ghalibaf claimed the U.S. is pushing to normalize Lebanon-Israel relations while asserting that Iran's memorandum of understanding aims to preserve Lebanon's independence, a phrase Iranian officials often use to refer to Hezbollah's influence in Lebanon's political and security spheres. So that's is happening at the same time. And this news that I just mentioned. So here's the official news on that. So Iran's state broadcaster cut short a pre-recorded interview with Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf on Tuesday, triggering protests from Parliament and speculation. And speculation that politically sensitive sections had been censored. The interview was interrupted while Ghalibaf was explaining the mechanism for releasing Iranian assets abroad. Video of the broadcast shows his remarks being cut off abruptly, followed by a black screen before the channel switched to other programming. So it doesn't tell you, but it switched to basically Ali Khamenei explaining why you shouldn't negotiate with the Americans. IRIB, which is basically the Islamic Republic State TV, later said the interview would continue in a second installment on Wednesday, adding that this had been announced in an on-screen ticker at the end of the program, which is interesting because they don't cut. And Ghalibaf people came out and complained that you should have played the whole thing, but by doing that, now they're going to make everybody pay attention to the second part because now Ghalibaf people came and complained that this should have been played. And now everybody's gonna tune in to see what the second half is, and the people that that saw the second half, they are saying that he's exposing Raisi, the previous president of the Islamic Republic, saying that not directly, not like this directly, but basically demonstrate that he had been lying about releasing a lot of frozen assets by the Islamic Republic, and actually Ghalibaf is the one who's releasing them. There is a theory, though, that we talked about on the Persian channel regarding this, which could be the case. Some people, I actually introduced this idea that maybe that they're doing this on purpose. So I'm not denying that there's no internal division within the Islamic Republic, but some of this, there's a silver lining to this for the Islamic Republic, because the internal division could be used by Ghalibaf at the negotiating table with the Americans to demonstrate that my hands are tied and I need more from you. Like the Americans need to give him more so that he could, because without it, yeah, there are so many people back at, so showing the backlash against them and how much his hands are tied back at home is a way for Ghalibaf to get more from the Americans, right? In the same way that sometimes Americans do that with the Israelis um, or the neocons in Washington D.C. That like at the it's basically a good cop, it's a classic good cop bad cop strategy. So in the same way that maybe President Trump is doing good cop bad cop with Rubio or JD Vance or with United States and Israel, it does make sense that Ghalibaf would want to do the same thing with him being the good cop and these people that are against him and him doing the MOU as the backup, right? So it is interesting to wonder whether maybe this was planned. You know, some of this is planned to cut the show, cut the program as a way for Ghalibaf to show how much pressure he's under, or it could be real. We know a lot of it is real. A lot of it is real, but we don't know exactly how much of it. But if it's important to be mindful of that. So yeah, that's the update I have from the internal politics of inside Iran.
There's another theory emerging right now as I speak that it was actually Allah, just like how he cut off their hopes and dreams of being in the finals, moving forward in the World Cup. He also may have gone in and cut off that programming. We'll see how it pans out and if that's true. But that theory I've also heard, as I said.
Allah, according to the Quran, Allah is the greatest of all deceivers. According to the Quran. So there you go.
Well, there we have it. Next to respond, we have Jose.
Okay. I'm curious as to when the recording was made because Tutsi a couple nights ago reported that to begin with, two IRGC people near the border up in where the separatists are that keep getting the guns, those guys were assassinated in their car, and both of them were known to be part of the group that was in Tehran during the night of the 2 nights of hell. They also reported another man was assassinated who was a producer for Iranian television station. So since we've had so many conspiracy theories today, how about a conspiracy theory that Ghalibaf had this guy taken out? We don't know when it was, but yeah. And there were actually very good videos on Tutsi's channel showing the takeouts of all three.
These were takeouts of who exactly? Are you talking about the recent IRGC assassin in the recent killings of IRGC assassinations in or accidents
Yes.
or
Yeah.
okay, yes. Um in Iran a lot of people think that those are the Israelis. I wouldn't be surprised if Ghalibaf is selling out the information of the people who need to be killed and how and where they are to the Americans to give to the Israelis. I wouldn't be surprised at all. I do believe it's very, very likely like that people like Larijani and Shamkhani were sold out by Ghalibaf to the Americans for the Israelis to take them out. And I think a lot of the reasons why so many people within the Islamic Republic are submitting to Ghalibaf is because they have the understanding that if they don't, they might be the next on the list. Ghalibaf will sell them out. And this is why I'm saying that the Ghalibaf is basically just using the U.S. military might for him to get his way right now within the Islamic Republic. And the United States it's very likely that the United States is using Ghalibaf as their inside man against the rest of the regime. And not because he's a good guy or anything or he's on our side, but because Ghalibaf's understanding is that if we go back to military operations, he's probably going to be the next one to die. And so he's very motivated in not, keeping the negotiations going on.
Okay, to respond to this, we have Monkey.
Yes, now that we're talking about infighting, about possible infighting with the network, between the network and the IRGC and who the networks are backing and all this, we do have an aggregator that gives us a lot of information on the infighting. And you can watch a program with him and Armin coming up next soon. So because we have this person that's going to probably have updates about this, this is a rare thing, right? This is very rare for the state TV to cut off and do these kinds of things. I am almost sure that Ali is going to have a lot of great information on this. So I would recommend that everyone subscribe to Liberty Politics, subscribe to Ali, so you can have the latest on this Durka on Durka action. So you can know what's up. You're going to be more informed than anybody else out there on this. I just want to point that out.
Oh, thank you, Monkey.
Armin, we are now at the end of the show. If you would close us out with super chats, please, we would love it.
So we have one super chat which is relevant to our topic, and thank you, BT. By the way, thank you, BT. You're amazing mod. Thank you always. Always love it when you're here. Fleshy Interloper is saying, love a bit of Ghalibaf analysis. How bad is he? This is a very good question. I think pretty much so. I think like Ghalibaf is close to being a perfect puppet right now of the Americans by force. With there are two things motivating Ghalibaf. Ghalibaf doesn't want to die, and I think he is terrified. Saying he knows like Larijani and Shamkhani and other politicians were killed by Israelis, and he doesn't want to be next. He's trying to be as useful to the Americans as possible so that they don't remove him from the no-kill list. The no-kill list is a list Americans have for the Israelis not to touch the people that the Americans don't want them to be touched. So if they're being useful, Ghalibaf doesn't want to be removed from that list, right? This is why he's now out walking around, right? Because he was in his hideout in a bunker somewhere, and then eventually, when the Americans give him the understanding that you're back on a no-kill list, then he started coming out and moving around, right? So that's his main motivation, but the Americans are probably also giving him some resources to be able to bribe people, intimidate people, put pressure on people, do some propaganda and stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if they're doing that with him. Um, but also, Ghalibaf is historically somebody that was always one of the most power hungry people within the Islamic Republic. His dream has always been to be the number one person within the Islamic Republic. So, besides trying to stay alive, he is also looking at this potentially if everybody is removed and he's left for him to become the person that has the full control and the main person within the main power within the Islamic Republic. So he is saying he is also motivated by that. He's kind of like Littlefinger from Game of Thrones. He's basically taking advantage of all of this chaos, and he thinks like it's a ladder that he could take advantage of maybe at some point. If he survives it, it's all for him to take. So he's also motivated by that. But the problem for him is that if so it's interesting. Like one last thing about Ghalibaf, I think if I was him, the best case scenario is no war, but the Americans stay, right? Because if the Americans leave this area, then he doesn't have a leverage anymore, and then all of the people that he was holding back will come for him, and they might remove him. If the Americans start military operations, he might be on the target list. So his ideal is for the Americans to just keep staying here, but do not attack. And the MOU and the negotiations keep going until he finds a way to use all the funds that are being released to somehow basically fully establish his dominance before anything else happens. That is what he has to try to do right now. And again, I could go into a lot more detail regarding how that could be done. He needs to basically get more people within the IRGC to completely come to his camp. And he needs to be using the funds that are being released, and the oil money right now. He needs to bring it under his own control, and only reward the people within the IRGC that are basically working within his framework under his leadership. And he needs to find a way to create a structure where it makes that permanent, not just temporarily while the Americans are here. If he doesn't do that, then he could, then I tell people that I can't wait to make a show with the title the rise and fall of Ghalibaf. Like, that's the title I want to have one day on one of my streams. We'll see if that happens. My name is Armin Navabi. I'm an Iranian political analyst with decades of experience fighting the Islamic regime inside and outside of Iran. Make sure you follow me for more, and also make sure you join our discussion group. I'm there almost every single day. Come talk to me there and the rest of the people there in our group calls. It's a great place to meet and talk to people who like talking about politics. The link is in the description and or in the bio. You could also get there by scanning the QR code on the screen. See you there.